Hi, my name is Lenore von Stein, and this is another episode of The Facts. And tonight, this is a very unusual episode in that we're going to be talking to three of the crew members of The Facts. This is backstage at The Facts. Right now, Scott Henkle sitting next to me. He's a new audio guy on The Facts. How did you find us? Why are you doing this?
I mean, for The Facts particularly, I was getting close to graduation from college, and I was looking for opportunities to stay involved in radio and TV production. And for the TV film side, a good side, of course, is Mandy.com. And so I saw the advertisement you put on there, and thought it would be a good opportunity to stay involved with producing TV in a studio and working with audio for TV. So I responded to it and thought it would be a good place to continue developing my skills in that area.
Ivanhoe is just like a hero, He rides in and we have nobody working in the control room. We have nothing, What is your thing? You're a cameraman and you're working freelance and
right. I freelance in camera, video camera and film. I also do location sound for shorts or features. Whoever wants to hire me for it. And I actually got into directing it in shorts, but the television show, your television show, was actually the first show I actually directed as a show, doing live cameras, taking on the fly.
Yeah, and you're doing very well. Sometimes we have to have, like right now, these static cameras, and you're not in the room right now. You're out here, and what has been your experience on this show, or what? Yeah, I don't even have to answer that. What's been your? What do you? How can it be made better, and what are the issues working here, working on the show, working at the station?
I think one of the issues, which I always try to look at both the positive and the negative side of things. I think one of the issues that we have is, the lack of staff most of the times. And sometimes they take on multiple roles at one time, and it's best for the production to have like one person take one role, such as switching, another person take one role, robotic cameras, another person man the real camera in here in the studio. And even though that can be somewhat intimidating and it could cause problems, it makes you think, and it also helps you to grow because you are stuck. It's like, okay, you want to make the best product possible. You want to have the best production possible. So you're just forced to think on the fly. It's like, okay, I got to do 2 people at one time, 3 people at one time, or else is it going to fall flat? And it kind of pushes you to the limit to do your best.
Which pushes you to the limit? Having to do more than one job?
And then when you be able to do one job, you say, thank God. Okay, I don't have to go nuts, and I can concentrate on this, and you already know what's going on. You could actually call back on some of the mistakes that you made and say, okay, I know when I did this all in one shot, I made this mistake. I could concentrate on this. I could advise someone not to do this or advise someone to try to do that. It can be very helpful.
Sometimes you've been doing this really nice stuff where you fade one picture into another and or juxtapose people that are sitting here and sitting there. Suddenly they seem to be sitting next to each other, and it's been really nice watching you develop this style. And I remember one of the last shoots when the facilitator from M&N came in and said you couldn't put the camera over there because you're going to see the back of somebody's head or the profile, and you did see the back of their head and you did see their profile, but so what? It's. Right.
It was because I wanted to get a certain shot of you, especially when certain people were talking, and it's almost like you're kind of like peeking in, almost like you're looking at something you're not supposed to, like catching a moment of you. You're like in the background, you just snuck into the studio. He's like, what's going on? okay, oh, that's her reaction when she's listening to this person's answer. Oh, okay. I want to get that feeling. I didn't want just like the regular static, okay, that's a shot there, shot there. I wanted to get some kind of emotion going in.
You know, on this last shoot that we did with the torture episode, and you caught my reaction sometimes, and I was, because I don't know what to do with my face sometimes. I want to be present. I'm present.
Right.
Thinking. But at the same time, I'm just. So you caught that, and I've seen you do that before, and sometimes it makes me. It causes me anxiety, but I have kind of put that anxiety away and say, well, this is because this is what I'm always looking for is the eye of the people who are looking. I have to put that away. This is part of the artwork. I wouldn't have looked at my face just then, but maybe when I look at this, 5 years from now or 2 years from now, I'll appreciate it even more. I'm just a piece of the picture.
Part of the whole.
All of these people at this point are volunteering, as are we, because money. Hello, Jonathan De La Rosa, camera guy. You're very unusual in that you like modern music, and that's so.
Unfortunately unusual, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. And because we do modern music here, but it's it's like you're doing I don't know what. It's really underappreciated.
Yeah, it's true.
So how come you came to this show? I mean, you looked it up in Mandy, and you're looking for.
Well, at the time, I was a logging intern at Redline Films, which was a production company. Well, is a production company down in Lower Manhattan, Soho area, right? Channels like Discovery, Bravo, et cetera, basically outsource production for certain programs to them, and so what we did was we took the raw footage from a day's shoot and we transcribed it into a script that the editors could use to fashion into an actual, program. And at the time, I was thinking, well, this is good for, getting kind of getting experience in the office side of production, kind of the bureaucratic, well, not even bureaucratic, just, sort of the post-office kind of white-collar aspect of the job. But I wasn't really getting enough actual hands-on production experience. And, at the time, my resume was, pretty anemic. So I felt that this was a good opportunity to get some really hands-on experience with actual, studio equipment and whatnot, right? And I also liked the idea of a show that could bring new music to a wider, potentially, even just a slightly wider audience.
Slightly wider.
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you certainly have gotten hands-on experience here.
Absolutely, yes.
Because some of the problems in working on this show?
Well, sometimes we're understaffed, especially on weekends when people, have other plans and they can't commit. So, you have to improvise, think on your feet, especially in the control room when you don't have enough tongue-tied to run everything.
But you've done very well, haven't you?
I suppose I have, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to make your own movies, or?
I would love to one of these days. I've written some partial scripts. I've written some full scripts. My computer crashed, so most of the stuff I wrote is stuck in that hard drive that's halfway dead. I'm trying to get it out. But eventually, yes, I would like to, because I always had this saying when I first decided to go into filmmaking. It wasn't like some people make like a split judgment decision. Oh, I'm going to make films now. It was like a gradual thing. Not gradual, but I said, I see things on television. They should have this story on television. They should have that, or this could be done better. And I took my time with it. I was working as a project manager and a specifier in contract for furniture industry. My original degree was in architecture. And I wasn't really fulfilled with it. It wasn't satisfying. The money was great, but it just wasn't here. And little by little, I started doing research on filmmaking. I started buying books to read. I started looking up schools, what the programs are about, little by little. So it wasn't a snap judgment. It was something that came over time, but I knew this was something I was definitely going to do. It wasn't just a fad. And as I progressed into it, from saying, gee, I just want to make films, I started realizing what kind of power these films can have. And I decided as a filmmaker, you have stories out there that have been told, or should I say, you have stories out there that haven't been told, that need to be told, and you have stories out there that have been told but need to be retold properly. And that's my goal as a filmmaker to do in the future.
Getting involved in audio in general, I was actually 17 years old and I was listening to overnight radio, an overnight radio program. Overnight is 2 to 6 a.m. During one summer after my junior year of high school. And I was listening to All Night with Jason Smith, which is actually a sports program. But the way he told this one story about, because he was relating a piece of news about a football player named Matt Leinart, who was being accused of being a deadbeat dad. And the way the host was, relating that to his own story, and the way he told that story, and how I was able to relate to the feelings despite not having ever been in that same circumstance, I wanted to get into radio and, tell stories and work with producing stories, theater of the mind.
We share two things aside from this. We like movies.
We like movies.
And we like new music.
Yes.
And we were talking about Drive, which we both really dug.
Oh, I love that movie.
And so what do you want to do?
I'd like to direct, ideally.
Direct films.
Yeah.
You want to write them, or?
Be nice to write them. You have more creative control, ideally, assuming producers don't step in and go, well, America's parents don't want to see a side boob in a PG film or something, or some crap like that,
So it's really the visual moving, creating a composition, a visual composition?
Something that's always interested me is kind of the dividing line between something that is representational and something that just goes off into pure abstraction, right, visually, like how Godard treats advertisements in 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her, or how Antonioni treats industrial structures in Red Desert, for example. That really interests me aesthetically. Mm-hmm. And I've never liked...
How does he treat industrial things in Red Desert? I don't remember.
Very, very stark, monumental, almost like shapes on a kind of abstract expressionist canvas, it feels like. But there's never any doubt that there's also representational quality, not just on a simple narrative level, but on a subtextual level as well. So that kind of fuzzy area really interests me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really, the composition, any kind of composition, it's really, at least a 3-dimensional chess game, if not more than that,
always a pain,
Always a what?
Always a pain. Like, I learned that the hard way when I was working in my, I went to Ramapo College of New Jersey for a BA in Communications Arts, concentration in digital filmmaking. I really learned the hard way what a pain blocking and lighting are when you have limited resources and limited space. Like people, a lot of, people who want to get into the field have this attitude of, well, I can just pick up a camera and make a movie and it'll look fine. No, it won't. Because you really need the, not just the resources, at least a minimum of crappy low-budget resources. But you also need the ability to improvise, think on your feet, and really take advantage of what little space you have. Mm-hmm. It's all about taking advantage of space.
Mm-hmm. Like a painter.
Yeah. Like not just, compositionally, but in terms of actual practice, because you really need to be able to think outside the box if you want to make something look good. If you're working on a low budget, or in the case of, my crappy college art projects, 0 budget whatsoever.
We've got a kind of a 0 budget here, but we've got some equipment,
Yeah.
We've got the space, and we've got some, really talented people working on this show. Can you give me an example of a story?
I'll tell you one example. There are a lot of old cowboy stories, okay, from the old Wild West that you've seen from like in the 40s and the 50s coming through and everything. And a lot of it is so inaccurate in regards to Native Americans, in regards to African Americans. For example, you hear cowboys. Cowboys are the big heroes and everything. People don't realize that originally cowboy was a derogatory term. Okay, because the original cowboys were like basically the Mexicans and freed slaves. And they couldn't just call them, they couldn't call them boys, Instead of saying, hey, boy, go get this, since they wrangle the cows, hey, cowboy, come do this. Cowboy, come do that. A lot of history is missing that people don't grab, okay? A lot of things have been basically wiped out. So to appeal, especially from back then, in the 40s and the 50s, to the general audience that was watching these movies at the time. A lot of heroes, I can't recall names right now, but there were still heroes in movies that were originally African American, and they were written in as white. Okay? You don't realize also you have a lot of African American mixed with Native Indians. There's so many different things that people are just missing out in history. Okay?
Yeah, they've changed they've changed how racism, and how it was used, and and they continue to use it. They continue to use it to strangle history, to change history so that it fits this untruthful version of what happened. Yes. Those stories do need to be retold.
I think history should be just stated out as is and let people decide for themselves what the situation is. You shouldn't write history how you think someone should be thinking it or someone should be feeling it. Show the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't make you look good, show the bad.
For sure.
Okay, and at the same time, what will happen is you can see how much we progressed from that bad. Also, you see how much we need to progress even further.
The truth is going to set you free,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
It's going to set you. Well, we try to tell. I try to tell the truth on the facts. It's kind of.
I've noticed. I've noticed.
Because I think it's very important. I mean, it makes me. If I feel like I understand something better than I understood it before, I can sleep better that night. And that's unless it's some lie that I've ingested and made me feel better. I'm sure that happens. But usually it's the next layer of understanding something that.
So right there, you just said the magic word that I noticed. Not too many people, I don't know if it's because of ego or pride or whatever, you just said as long as you learn something new. Okay? You're talking about learning. The day we stop learning is the day we stop living. Okay? The only way we could progress is to keep learning, even if it's a small little fact. And some people have this thing they can never be wrong. Or you see it all the time. Oh, God forbid you hint they might be wrong about one small little speck of a fact, and they go ballistic. Me, my mindset is, okay, if I had a thought of something and you could prove me wrong on it, good. This way, I learned something new. I learned where I was wrong about something, and I take that knowledge and I add it to my arsenal of knowledge. It makes me a better person. I don't care about being wrong or right. I want to care about what I know correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not threatened by it.
Exactly.
We don't have no concept of how much time is passed for this show.
Well, the first two, I know the first one you were definitely under time. I was like, oh, maybe Lenore's timing this. I looked at the stopwatch. And
no, I got no watch here. We have to go 27 minutes, and we don't know how much time we've gone. Nobody's timed it, right? In a way, how it makes a very rich experience.
Yeah. There's been amazing, obviously there's War of the Worlds, the original radio broadcast that sent almost the entire nation into a panic, is a great example of the way people connected with radio one-on-one. And that's the thing, it's supposed to be a more personal, local medium. There are a lot more local radio programs across the country than there are TV programs. TV is mostly nationally targeted programs. You have what's produced by a network, what's produced by production houses for either to go to network and then syndicate or go straight to syndication. Radio, you have a lot more local programming throughout the day, even though that's starting to disappear with, the development of radio networks, and they're beginning to do the same thing to cut costs. But there's still that local element that helped radio survive the development of television that's still present and that still connects with a lot of people.
So you're looking for work, right? Is it hard to find? Obviously, it's really hard to find work.
Yeah, it's really tough because of, especially in radio, which is where I've been looking. I've been looking elsewhere in TV and in college athletics, working with sports teams there, because that's what I did part-time in college. But, radio particularly, there have been so many layoffs in recent years by the big companies that own a lot of the local stations that even stations in the really small markets can be very choosy in terms of the amount of experience, and skills that they want their employees to have before they hire them, because so many people are looking for work that they can, it's a buyer's market.
So people going out into a particular field right now have to find ways to get that experience when they don't have that experience, and stay alive at the same time while they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How European. So, well, I don't know. What else should we say? I think that's... what kind of problems have you encountered? Well, we already talked about that, the
lighting,
understaffing, lighting.
Yeah, lighting can sometimes be an issue depending on blocking where people are in the frame, but
Lighting
really,
on this show is
lighting
a
on
problem.
this show can be depending on what's going on. But really, the biggest issue that I think we've always run into is when there's a lot of people playing at the same time. Getting the sound right and getting it just right so that the sound equipment doesn't interfere with the visual composition, and managing to combine that with a decent what's the word? Manage to get good sound quality in spite of that, because if you think about that first, it can really screw up your sound quality.
Yes.
Yeah.
I go around here saying audio's king, I don't mean to make anybody lesser, but...
It really is, because you can get away with a lot if you have good audio.
And yes,
Yeah.
it's very important. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Ciao.
Ciao.
How did you come up with this concept with the Facts of the Music show?
We've been, the particular group that does the Facts, we've been working together on and off for maybe 10 years. And because the music is so, what can I say, modern, so unusual, so many people don't like it, but that's not going to stop me. And so I started to tell little stories in between pieces of music to try to give the music some kind of, give the audience some kind of points of reference in this kind of far out stuff.
Right.
And then I also am quite taken with movies, Hollywood movies, is kind of seamless ways one piece goes into another. So with this group of musicians, we worked to develop this way to go from improvisation to a composed piece of music with seamlessly, or that's at least what we're trying to do, fairly seamlessly. Or if there's a seam there, it sort of fits right in. It's not like we stop and we say, because music, you have to count down. Somebody has to call the tempo. So we had to find a way to have the tempo called, but that fits into this through line of action. And so out of that, and then maybe live performances where you didn't want people to leave, so you just kept going so they couldn't leave, and then making, and it's still a work in progress, because this series is giving me a real chance to develop these ideas, develop this form, and so making this these 27-minute, like tableaus, that have music and have this and have that, but it's like a painting sort of, and it's one piece, and it kind of answers simultaneously many of my interests, at the same time, and then throwing in these discussions, I get to meet these people and, find out stuff. But anyway, the format of the music, it grew out of, trying to get along better with the audience, and then also then it developed a life of its own. So we're going to continue doing that because, and building and make it more asymmetrical, not so symmetrical, and the people that I play with, they're pretty good improvisers, and they know. And one of them, Andrew, he says, we always know when to stop. Well, we don't always know when to stop, but that's the problem with improvisation, is that you can really be enjoying it, but is the audience enjoying it? So I try to make them really short and relevant, and so that's always my goal in art, so that nothing is there sort of just for the heck of it. It's there because it's meaningful. And I started as an actor before I was a musician, and I did this piece. The last piece I did as an actor was a piece by Samuel Beck. It's a 45-minute monologue that I worked on for 5 years. I used to feel like the inside of my body was dying, and but one of the things I got from this was that this guy had nothing in there, no and, if, but, no comma, that wasn't justified from several different directions. Everything was there for several purposes. So the thing was sort of organic, like a tree. There's no dress up, no extra stuff. And that's my goal, and to tell the truth, which is scary, and hard. And it doesn't get less scary so far, or less hard. But it's quite rewarding.